So I get a phone call. Randy, got a hot new lady. She's out in California. She just started. She's having her second meeting. We need you there. She's going to have more than 500 people there. 500 people? Her second meeting? How is that possible? Oh, yeah, she's just amazing. She's like the number one real estate broker in her county, and she's got a database of thousands of things, and she teaches other real estate agents, and she's having them all come, and she's ordered, wine and cheese and refreshments, and she's going to have 500 people there. Like, whoa, 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 time out, time out. This isn't going to work. Of course it's going to work. She's so well known. I'm talking to my enrollee, who is, of course, the one who has enrolled this lady. I'm like, we know this is not going to work, because how does this get duplicated? Well, I'm telling you, she's got it figured out. She's got a whole system, and then she's going to sign up the people there, and then there, but I'm like, let me get on the phone with her. So I get on the phone with her, and I know this is a dead issue, right? I've been through this 1,000 times in my career. I know it's a dead issue, but I do it anyway. I get on the phone to the lady, and I try to explain, hey, I think it's wonderful that you're this person of influence, and you can get all of these people here, but please do not serve wine. Do not have trays of hors d'oeuvres. This is because she was going to spend, I don't know, $5,000 or something, which she could afford. She was a very successful business person. And I'm like, please don't do that. But of course she didn't listen to me. And of course I went out there, because what a sponsorship line person wouldn't? Anytime we know we can get in front of 500 new prospects, we always believe that, we're not going to be turned by the dark side of the force, and we're going to be able to restore balance to the universe. So of course I got on a plane, of course I flew out, and she not just had wine, but she had a spread like it was like a Hollywood premiere party, like they do when they have a movie and Mel Gibson is there, and Bruce Willis, or Julia Roberts, or whoever. I mean, she spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this, and these people knew her and they loved her, and they all signed up. I did the presentation. She introduced me. She did her little wrap up at the end. They all signed up, and of course, 90 days later, the lady was out of the business because it didn't duplicate. If there's one thing that you must know about our business more than anything else, it is this. It's not what works. It's what duplicates. Let me say that again, please. Listen to me. It's not what works. It's what duplicates. You could sponsor Bill Gates, and he could say, hey, I've got billions of dollars. I'm just going to build it into my software. Every time somebody buys a Windows operating system, I'll have a little pop-up box that says, hey, you want to join ABC Opportunity? You can't do that. Even though it would work, I'm sure Bill Gates would sign up 5 million people his first month. But how many of those people are going to be able to do that? Yes, you could take a commercial on the World Cup or the Super Bowl and sponsor 5,000 people with one commercial if you have the $4 million it would take to do that. But then how many of those people have the $4 million to do the commercial that you did? And if they did, they got to wait till next year when the Super Bowl comes around again. And by then they're going to have already dropped out. So it's not what works, it's what duplicates. And that's really the foundation of everything we're going to talk about all throughout every module in this platform. We're always going to go back to the fundamentals of duplication, the principles of duplication. So let's begin here with a formula. This is the formula for duplication. And it's a very simple formula, but it's a very profound one. And there's 3 parts to this, but this is what will really cause duplication to happen all the way through through the whole thing. And I'm going to here's this. Listen to me carefully, and we're going to break it into 3 parts. All right. Lead a core group of influencers to follow a standard process for a sustained period of time. So let's break that down. Lead a core group of influencers. That's the first part, the first third of it. We need this core group to follow a standard practice or a set of practices. And it's probably better if we could even use the word simple, because we want them to be simple, we want them to be elegant. So we get this core group of people to follow simple procedure or simple practices for a sustained period of time. That's the ultimate formula for duplication. Because if you don't have a core group of influencers, if it's just you and two other people and nobody has any influence, nothing's going to happen. If we make it too complex, nothing's going to happen. See, here's the danger you're going to see. You're going to get people come and say, hey, I'm an engineer. This is what I do. I'm great at processes and systems, and I'm an engineering consultant, and what we need is a training manual. And they're going to say, I'm going to create a manual for you, and you're going to see. And they go out and they create a 3-ring binder, which has, 457 pages, and they try to think of every conceivable opportunity. So, well, if you meet someone who knows someone who walks the dog of a very famous professional athlete, here's how you would approach them. And here's how you approach somebody who is your boss. And here's how you approach somebody who is your employee. And here's how you approach somebody who you were referred to by a vendor. And they create a script and a formula and an action step for every conceivable situation that they can imagine. Even if they could imagine all of them, which they can't, it'll never duplicate because it's so complex. The core group is not going to be able to take that action because nobody can go around with a 4-inch thick 3-ring binder and say, well, wait a minute, Mr. Prospect, let me look up, what I'm supposed to do in this situation. Simple actions, a standard practice, a standard procedure, a standard process that everybody does. And then they just do that forever. And that's the thing about our business. It doesn't change. The principles we're talking about, they won't change. So there's, tools may change, products will change, prices will change, market conditions will change. But this process never changes, which is we have this core group of people. They're going to perform the standard practice, and they need to just keep doing it forever. Or forever until they say, hey, I've got X amount a month of residual income, and I'm happy with that, so I'm just going to, it's now time for me to check out. I built my team. I built this, solid passive income, and now I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor. They get to do that. Anyone has the opportunity to do that in our business. But if they want to continue to grow the income, then they have to continue to operate by the process, which is a core group of influencers follow a standard process over a sustained period of time. Now, let's talk about the components of a duplicable system, because there's going to be this, and by the way, I'm only talking about these in the context of what you need to know in the field. As somebody who just started in the business, if you started 10 minutes before you got on this platform, it wouldn't matter. These are the 6 elements, and here's what I want you to know about them. Here's what makes up a system that will replicate level after level after level after level after level for hundreds, literally even thousands of levels down. First element is marketing materials. Now the key with this, and now everybody says, well, of course we got marketing materials. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Hopefully you do, but the marketing materials need to be spelled out. In other words, what are the specific tools and what are they used for? What is the outcome of a tool, right? So a product catalog is to expand, obviously to give the prospect enough information to decide to want to buy the product or decide the product is not for them. Every audio, every video, whatever the tool is, it's got to be spelled out what is it for. Now the second component I'm going to call the tool action tie-in. And this means it's delineated step by step what action you take and what tool you give. So for instance, here's an example for you. one of the actions might be to invite someone to a home presentation, for example. And then there's a packet of tools that is given to the prospect at the end of that presentation. Let's call it the take-home pack. So the action is get a prospect at a home meeting. The tie-in is the take-home package. So we need to have that step by step, what it is throughout the system. The process as we bring a prospect through the prospecting pipeline. Now, third element is going to be something I call escalation progression. And escalation progression, this is the secret weapon of duplication. Because there's a whole lot of psychological dynamics that are coming about in this scenario. Because what escalation procession means is progression, I should say. What this means is every time the prospect sees your opportunity, it's a bigger deal than it was the time before. So maybe it started with you sent them a link and they watched a little intro video and that got them interested. Then they came to a home meeting. So it progressed a little bit bigger. Then they still didn't decide, so you invited them to a hotel presentation and there was 800 people at it. Or you invited them to a webcast and there was 2,000 people on it. So the idea is that every time they see the presentation, it's a bigger deal than it was the time before. Now, a lot of things are in play here. One, of course, is repetition. There's some people, they see this, they get it. First time, when I saw the circles the very first time, I got it. I said, man, I'm tired of washing dishes and bussing tables and flipping burgers. This makes sense. I got the power of leverage. I understood it instinctively, and I jumped in the first time I was ever presented the business. And a lot of people do, but not everyone does. There are many people, they need to see it 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, right? So whatever it is, repetition does play a role. The other role that plays is social proof. This is the other dynamic that comes into the equation, is every time you're escalating this, they're seeing more people who are in the same situation they are. And humans are followers, and they just say, wow, if they go to a meeting, there's 400 people there. You're going to see, like, the bigger your meetings get, the higher the percentage of prospects who sign up gets. You have a meeting for 40 people, there's a certain percentage of prospects who sign up. When it's 400 people, that percentage goes up. If it's 1,500 people, the percentage goes up. And it's funny, you'll see, if you have an opportunity presentation and you got 2,000 people there, and I've done these for 5,000 people, by the way. I once did an opportunity presentation with 5,000 people in the hall, most of them prospects. I'm miles away from them drawing on a whiteboard, which is then, portrayed on screens. But still, there's people in the back, they're 10 miles away. They can't even see what I was doing on that board, but they didn't have to. All they had to see was, there's 5,000 people in this thing? This thing must be amazing. People make decisions based on social proof. If all these people have looked at this and decided it's a good thing, it must be a good thing. If all these people are doing this thing, it must be, I don't want to get left behind. The other thing is just the psychological dynamic of a little video, then a one-on-one or 2-on-1 presentation, then a home presentation, then a hotel presentation. Then every time the presentation gets bigger, psychologically in the prospect's mind, it makes the value of the presentation get bigger. So that's important. All right, what are we on? Number 4, presentation template. What do I mean that? Just simply that there's a standardized presentation all throughout your organization. Now, it doesn't mean it's everybody's reading a script, but it means there's an outline and a process that it follows. Starts with, and here's an example, just off the top of my head. It would probably start with the benefits of the business, benefits of the lifestyle, benefits of the product. Might introduce the concept of network marketing and why it offers leverage, the benefits of leverage. Then would introduce the company, the compensation plan, how the prospect makes money. Then you would go to the support structure of all the system that's in place to help them, train them, guide them, mentor them. You'd probably have some testimonials. Then you'd have a call to action. Here's the, packages, choose one of these, get started, and we'll get you going this week. That's a standardized that's an example of an outline. So everybody still brings their personality into it, everybody still tells their stories, but it's a standardized template that everybody follows. So I can get a call from somebody 27 levels down from me who lives 1,500 kilometers away or 1,000 miles away, and I could go to their town and do a meeting, or you could go to their town and do a meeting, and they're going to see the same basic presentation that they saw from their sponsor, or their sponsor's sponsor, or their sponsor's sponsor. Okay? That gives you continuity, and continuity gives you duplication. All right, number 5 thing to talk about is a standardized new member orientation. Now, what's a new member orientation? Meaning, this is the training that somebody gets when they first get going in the business. And this is really important because this is all the basic stuff. How do they set up their auto ship if you have that? How do they place orders? How do they reorder? How do they register new team members? How do they get to is there a back office? How do they check their volume? How do they enroll new people? There's, what should they do to enroll new people? How do they make their list? How do they start inviting people? When do they set up their first meetings? All of those kind of things. This training needs to be systematized, and this is the most important training, because here's what I've learned. You will make or break your new people in the first 2 weeks, and the first 48 hours are critical. If you get them into activity, and that's why this platform is so important. That's why I say you got to get this. And you remember the introduction, I told you this platform is for you, but it's not really for you. It's for your people. That you got to get them. Hey, do you have your password yet? Have you taken the first course yet? You've got to just be getting them involved, because if you get them into action in the first 48 hours, they stay in action. But if you don't get them into action within the first 48 hours, that's when the doubts start to creep in. That's when the procrastination starts to creep in. That's when I wonder if this is work. I don't know. Okay. So you have to have that. Now, by the way, if you don't have that, I've got a generic version. It's called Getting Started as an audio, and there's a booklet that goes with it. It's called First Steps. So if you're watching this, if you're on the platform right now and you say, well, my company doesn't have that, that's no excuse. Here's a generic version. You can find that at networkmarketingtimes.com. They have a store, and I sold that company. I've got no axe to grind with this, but that's a tool. That's a generic tool that you can use for your whole team to take them through that process of writing their list of prospects, jogging their memory, setting up their first meeting, all of that kind of thing. Here's the key, and pay attention because this is going to be on the test. I'm not kidding when I say this. This is on the test. Here's the key of your new member orientation. 3 things it's got to do: systematize, automate, and scalable. Now, why do I say that's the key, those 3 things? Because for you to really have duplication, you got to get people out of the gate fast right away, and you got to be, systematized. That's what all duplication is based on, right? Automate and scalable, because then you don't have to be involved with everything. Because here's the thing, I know people who are very successful at sponsoring a new person and then going to their house and spending 2 to 3 hours with them. Come on, who do you know named Mo? Who do you know named Joe? Who do you know named Curly? Who did you buy your car from? Who lived left to you? Who lived right? Who did you know in the service? Who did you know? And then, come on, let's do the list. Okay, let's make the call. They spent 3 hours with this. That's great if you're willing to do that. I wasn't willing to do that because I wanted something scalable. When I got back in the business, I sponsored 15 people in the first week. And I didn't have time to go to 15 different people's houses and spend 3 hours with each of them, and I would have never got them going. So you want to have a new member orientation that's systematized, automated, meaning it's in a tool, it's online, it's in a booklet, it's in a DVD, it's wherever, and it's scalable. So you could sponsor 8 people in a week and send all 8 through this training, and they're going to be able to get started fast in the business. All right, and finally, the sixth element of duplication in a duplicable system is the event structure. And we're going to get into that more in depth in some of the future courses in the platform. But the idea is people need events to plug into. And yes, a lot of these will probably be online events. We've seen a lot of the business has migrated to the online platforms, just like you're on here getting your training on an online platform. And I get that, but there's also a place for physical events. And there's local events, there's regional events, and then there's training events. So there's stuff for prospects and there's stuff for training for distributors. So we'll talk about all of those things, more as we get into detail. But just know for now, these 6 things, these are the components that make up a duplicable system. Now, here's the moral of that story of that real estate person out in California. I told you, she was out of the business within 90 days. But there were some other people who had joined about the same time who didn't have all those connections. They didn't have thousands of dollars to invest in hors d'oeuvres and wine and waiters in tuxedos and all of that stuff. But they were willing to follow the system. They were duplicable. They were coachable. And you know what? Those people are still in the business and have a big business with a very nice residual income, even though they didn't have a fraction of the money or the influence or the talent of that particular real estate broker who had 500 people at her first meeting. So find these elements in your company, employ them, and you will have duplication.